because I'm from Brighton. But here I am, and it's much nicer. It's actually a lot sunnier here than it was when I left this morning. But I'm here to talk to you about creating a success culture. But what does a success culture actually mean? And for me, it's about moving the needle. So it's about making a difference on the things that matter. And it's about moving the needle on things that we can measure, that we can get a return on our investment, and ultimately they're predictable. So that's what a success culture means for me. And before I talk to you a little bit more, it's blank, about how you guys can actually create that success culture, I wanted to tell you a little bit of a story. And actually the story goes back to when I was a teenager, and it was probably about November time. And if you've got kids, you'll recognise the first word. And it was, please, please Mum, can I have this? All of my friends had this item, and I really, really wanted it. The iPhone. And I remember, get my words out, specifically my dad said, no Ali, we bought you a BlackBerry about 9 or 10 months ago. You're not having an iPhone. But I was a particularly persistent child, and thankfully on Christmas Day, I opened the £450 original iPhone. Just shocking, right? 450 quid 12 years ago. And that awesome iPhone had 4G, but not the type of 4G that we have today. It had 4 gigabytes of storage. But I wasn't the only person that wanted that original iPhone, and actually if you fast forward 6 months to when it came out, 300,000 people queued for that £450 iPhone, which actually I find extraordinary. And can I just get everyone to stand up for me a second? This bit might be a little bit awkward for you guys at the back unless you've been to the gym recently. Can I get you to sit down if you do not own a smartphone of some kind? Everyone's still standing but one person. Kind of interesting. Can I get you to sit down if you do not own a smartphone? Sorry, I said smartphone. iPhone. So about a third of the room sat down, which means 2/3 of us still have an iPhone in our pocket. Pre-2007, the iPhone didn't even exist. iPhone absolutely revolutionised the industry. And yet here we are, so you can sit down now. So what is it that Apple did? Because actually there are lots of things that other computer companies were doing. BlackBerry were doing it. The industry was rolling, but actually they did something different. They flipped their marketing on its head, so they started talking about why, what's their actual purpose. But actually their iPhones came out, they were better, they were smarter, they were faster. And if I was to ask you the question, would you still have that original iPhone in your pocket right now? Just raise your hand if you still have it. Pardon?
I would if the battery worked.
You would if the battery worked. But you know what? The battery dies. It got slow, like most iPhones still do. But actually, had they drawn that line and said, we have absolutely revolutionised the mobile marketing industry, what would happen? They stand still. Actually, they're going backwards. Their competition will overtake. So what does that tell us? It tells us that actually when we're operating in saturated markets ourselves, we've got no option but to continually to get better, to get smarter, to get faster. So here it was. You could have 16 gig if you wanted a slightly bigger phone, but that would have cost you more. 2 megapixel camera, that 128 megabyte memory. No one wants that phone anymore. It is so old, it is slow, the battery doesn't work. It's history, things have moved forward. So how can you make that difference in your own business? That actually you're constantly moving forward, you're not accepting that that line's there, that you can become better, you can become smarter, you can become faster. And technology is not going to do that for you. There is one person that can make a difference. And how many of you run your business on your own as opposed to having a team around you? A handful. How many of those have got a team around you? Okay. So about a 50-50 split. There is one tool that you can use on yourself or you can use on your team, and it's to hold up the mirror. No technology is going to make the difference for you. And I said to Meg that I wanted to do something a little bit different rather than just talk. I'm actually going to get you guys to do an activity. You may have to pair up if you don't have a smartphone with a stopwatch on it. But can I get everyone just to get out their smartphones? And as you're doing that, I'm just going to... Can you take a couple of these and just pass them round, please? So on your smartphones, if you can set the timer to 5 minutes. Don't press go yet.
Oh, what?
But in front of you, you've got a series of different challenges. There are no rules, so you can do whichever challenges take your fancy. You can do none, you can do all of them. The only exception is if you go over 55 points, and each activity has a points associated to it, you are bust, you are out of the game. Does that make sense? So I'm going to give you those 5 minutes. If you want to start your timer and see how close to 55 points you can get. Okay, so that must be the 5 minutes up. How close? See, that's the sort of sound we need. So anybody that's still sleepy after their lunch won't be by the time we've all got the alarm sorted. It's okay. How close to 55 did everyone get? Did anybody get within 5 points?
No, you didn't. No, I got enough 47.
So just the one. Okay. How many points did you get?
50.
50, so congratulations. What particular tasks do people naturally get drawn to?
The easy ones.
Yeah. Okay, define easy for me.
Easier with higher points.
The maths one, I think, for me.
The maths one, okay. Did anybody look at the maths one and go, hell no?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Panic.
That's interesting. Panic, okay. What other tasks did people go for? Did anyone go for the rap?
Very tempted. If I hadn't been here and not known people did, I probably would have done it at home.
Okay.
I loved it.
And at home, okay. Why not here?
Because I feel like I'm out of my comfort zone.
Okay, out of your comfort zone. What other tasks do people go for? Taking a photo, okay. Any particular photo?
The hand and the selfie.
The hand and the selfie. Right, okay.
Drafting an email.
Write your name backwards.
Drafting an email.
Drafting the email, interesting one. Okay.
Why?
So something that you were holding back on before, but actually starting to focus about getting it done. Can I have your hands up if I to ask you to come up here with a whiteboard and to do that simultaneous equation? You would have walked out the door. Just 2, 3, 4, 5. You put your hand up, but you solved
Yeah, but
it.
don't forget, there's another maths one down there, number 8.
Yep.
Simple multiplication.
Okay. Interesting. So this is just a fictional task. It's just a little bit of fun. But what do you think that this tells us about our natural tendencies towards tasks?
To choose the tasks that we prefer doing.
Preferred?
We didn't read the question.
Okay, didn't necessarily read the question, just got stuck
Which
in.
is to get 55 points. You just pick the 3 which can be 55.
Okay.
Why did you do this?
So perhaps thinking about a strategy behind why we do what we do.
The tasks
Okay.
that are achievable, that we feel are achievable for us.
Yeah, that are achievable for us. So thinking about your own business objectives over the next 12 months, what tasks are you doing that are within your comfort zone? Shout some up for me.
Social media. Social media.
Social media? Come on, you should all be shouting at least one thing out. What is it that you get paid to do?
Client work.
Client work. So what does client work mean to you, Meg?
So design work, graphic design work.
Graphic
web
design work. Somebody else shout something out. Invoicing.
Photography.
Networking, photography. So there are things we do that we feel comfortable at, we're good at. That's why clients pay us to do it, right? Is anybody brave enough to share something that they really dread in their business?
Cold calling.
Cold calling,
Proposals.
proposals, writing,
Any sort of business administration job.
business administration. For me, it's accounting.
Tax return.
Tax, oh God, that's me walking out the door right here. But there are things that we want to do, the things that we're good at, the things that we're comfortable doing, and then there's the other tasks. So why is everybody in this room today? To network? To grow your reach, to raise the profile of your business? To create a community of other people that want the same things as you? Am I kind of along the right lines here? Yes. Excellent. Good. So I am in the right place. So we all want to make our business better. We want to grow it. We want to be smarter. We want to get things to market quicker. But we're spending our time doing the things that make us feel super comfortable. And then perhaps we're wondering why we're not reaching our goals as quickly as we want them to. So what can we do about that? And I've decided to focus on 5 tools that cost you absolutely no money. I could say outsource it, and we all know that that's a great strategy, especially when you're growing and there's too much task for you to be doing individually. I could say work with a coach, or I could say find a mentor in your industry, but all of those things cost money. Here are 5 things that as soon as you walk out this room, you can start to apply that are going to make a difference in how quickly you navigate towards those bigger pieces in your strategy. Time to think. How many of you have families in here? Lots of us. If you haven't got families, how many of you have got friends and hobbies and a social life? Does anybody want to admit to having no friends, no family, no hobbies, and just focus on their business and do absolutely nothing else? We have things going on. How often do we get time to really sit and think? But if you're not thinking, how do you know that the activities that you're doing are actually having the impact that you want them to? So even giving yourself 5 minutes at the beginning of the day, 5-10 minutes, to sit and think, what is it that I'm looking to achieve today? Or looking at the bigger picture, what are my business objectives over the next 6 months? What are my KPIs for this month? What are the non-negotiables that I need to be doing in order to hit my goals? Whether that's revenue, whether that's making a decision about which investor route to go down. Give yourself time to think. This is what I call the park, bin and limit activity. So one of the things that I absolutely love doing is designing material. I could sit in my kitchen all day and just write PowerPoint presentations or design murder mystery activities in London. I love it. How many clients are likely to buy that if all I do is sit at home and make PowerPoints look pretty? Nobody knows about me. The thought of me getting on perhaps LinkedIn and doing a live fills me with dread. I don't want to do it. But actually, if my business is just me, I need somebody that I can relate to on my purpose. So, bin, what activities have you got on your to-do list right now that you're doing because you enjoy them, you feel comfortable, you know the result that you're going to get off the back of them, that add no value to your business? And I would put a lot of money on the table to say that every single one of us is doing things that are adding no value. Being on social media and scrolling down because your networking doesn't necessarily count as a productive task unless there's a desired output at the end of it. Are there things that you can park? You know, they're important. What you do is really, really important, but how critical is it? Or are we doing it because we justify that it's important? And can you limit the times? This isn't about saying let's create something that's really boring and we don't want to get up every day and do something that we love, but can you limit the amount of time that you spend on it? Get organised. So back to the smartphone. You can use your calendar, whether it's phone, whether you use Outlook, whether you use sort of Google Calendars, in two ways. The first thing that I do is when I'm designing material, I block time out. I give myself half a day to write material, and that's it. The reason I do that is because I could easily spend a week on it. So limiting the time that I spend on it. The flip side, who else puts something in their diary because they know they need to do it and then presses snooze? Couple? I definitely am guilty of this. Tax returns, my monthly accounts, they don't get done, do they? We put them off. And I'm lucky or unlucky, my dad does all my accounting for me. I invite him to my monthly meeting. He doesn't put my receipts together, but I still invite him. Why? Because he picks up the phone and says, Ali, have you done this? It's in the calendar. Well, I was going to press snooze, but I probably should get on and do it now. So inviting somebody that can hold you to account. That could be somebody that you work with in the business, it could be a friend, it could be whoever. Get organised. Probably the most vile drink I have ever tasted in my life. I know people have quite differing opinions. Disagreeing? You love it, you love it. Okay. I detest it, but I love their phrase here. What's the worst that can happen? And there's a really, really great statement that says you miss 100% of the shots that you do not take. And I think that's quite humbling because there are so many times that I create a plan, I build a strategy, I break that down into manageable tasks, and then I wonder 6 months later why I haven't hit any of them. Because I'm good at what I do. But actually it's because I'm avoiding things. What is the worst that can happen if you do something that's scary? And then finally, there are just two questions that you can ask yourself. So why am I avoiding doing whatever it is? Tax returns, invoicing, sales calls, networking, going on social media, whatever it is. Why are you avoiding doing it? Secondly, why am I spending more time than I allocated doing something? And more often than not, there are just two reasons why we avoid things or spend more time doing the things we like. One, we have a fear of failure. We don't want to get things wrong. We don't want people to think we're stupid. We don't want to fail. If you don't start something, you can't fail it. The second reason is because you don't know how to do something. So if you can find out how you're going to do it, and you can start measuring the return that you're going to get on those tasks that you're doing, you start to be able to identify and create the desired output, and you can see the change happening. And none of that happens if you don't have time to think.